Yeah, Arizona was great. We had our honeymoon, which was fun. So we were in Prescott for a couple days, which had like a bunch of history stuff, and we did some history tours, and also did some birding there. There's this big reservoir down there that has like a lot of migrating birds that come through, and so we made a point to go there and saw a bunch of cool stuff that was nice for us. And then went to Sedona after that and spent like a week in Sedona, which was really nice too. And we actually so on top of like birding, we did this train trip, and it's I think this is gonna spark my next like the episode I want to do. We did this train trip through this big canyon, and it was like in an area that you can't hike to and can't drive through. The only way is on this like train rail, and it's like during the week I think it's an operating train, and then on the weekend they switch it over to these cars just for tourism. And there's golden eagles in this canyon, and so we saw a couple golden eagles, which was cool. And we didn't even know that they were going to be there. We just kind of got on the tour, and the guide was like, "Yeah, we see bald eagles, we see golden eagles," and we were like, "Oh, cool!" And so it had
Yeah.
this like observation car, and we saw some golden eagles, which were cool.
Oh, neat.
So
Yeah.
where does
Yeah.
that run from? And how long is the trip?
It's in Cottonwood, which is which is
Or
like
Clarkdale is the
Clarkdale.
actual,
Oh, Clarkdale.
I think,
Okay.
where the train station is. It's,
Okay.
yeah, right near Cottonwood, but it's like this, like, defunct mining town. And then the railroad was called the Verde Canyon Railroad. And it was a big part of the movie, the 1964 film How the West Was Won, which we haven't seen yet, but now we want to see because this railroad plays a big part. But it goes to some really remote areas. Like people have a ranch out there that like there's no roads to it and stuff. It's really interesting. Yeah.
And it's like a 4-hour tour, so it's like 2 miles out, and then it stops, and then goes 2 miles back on the same route. So
Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, I
So you-
love the idea of that. What a great thing.
it was
Yeah.
really
So
cool.
you guys missed a hurricane coming in too.
Yes, yeah. The monsoon.
Yep. Well, and,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
there was a hurricane that came across Baja and was going to come up
Oh.
into southern Arizona. And,
Oh.
Are you
and-
serious?
Yeah, and sometimes those are really interesting in terms of bringing up things like brown pelicans as far as Phoenix and stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought you were being funny. I didn't know that
It's-
could be in Arizona.
It's yep. All the birders get excited.
Wow. Very cool.
There's
Well,
lots of
John,
weird.
uh,
Don't you
John,
think there's lots of weird language associated with weather these days?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, what do you
someone
mean,
created
Shannon?
a whole new language, like bomb, cyclone, and it's just like all these weird. Those words didn't exist like that growing up.
I so hear
Polar
you. Yeah.
vortex. I don't like living in a
Yes.
place where those two words are used together so frequently. Polar vortex.
It
I
gets
know,
clicks.
weather is such a thing.
They're
I guess
marketing
What's
the
that,
storms.
RJ?
Right.
I said it gets clicks. People are more interested
Oh,
in storms. No, I don't
That's
know.
what I think. I think it's sexy. Like that makes the weather like sexy and
Yeah, because
people love it.
near-death experiences really have that effect on people.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I had some exciting news. John, I didn't know if you know this, but did you know that you're going viral right now? So,
Oh, what did he do?
Oh, it's a good thing. So
Tell
remember when
Shannon, first of all.
yeah, Shannon, it's good. No,
It's a
remember
good
when we
virus.
shot those
Yeah,
videos at the
the
Field
little
Museum, and
right.
so I've had some more time, so I've been cutting some and posting them. And so there was the one where you talked about it was the convergence with the eastern meadowlark and the yellow-throated longclaw.
Oh my
So-
gosh!
Yeah, so I know we shot this like a year ago, and so I
Yes.
posted it last week, and it's up to like 23,000 views on TikTok, 18,000 on Instagram. Yeah, it's like by far the most like engagement and views that we've ever
Why?
had with anything.
I haven't
So
haven't
cool.
looked at things like that in the last little while, but
Uh,
are people commenting so that we know why?
um, I think people are just watching it, and then there's a lot of people sharing it, just saying like, this is super cool, this is interesting. And so like you see
Well,
it's
it
like
is,
getting shared.
granted,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. But it's
often the
just
things that we find interesting, other people just raise their eyebrows.
Well,
yeah, I was curious, John, if anybody's reached out though, or
no,
no.
but it's interesting. We should keep this in mind. Marky Muchler came to us. We're teaching this class called Birds of the World right now, which is literally just almost a self-study study of the collections for students. It's all going to be University of Chicago students, and the idea is at the end we basically have what's called a lab practical, where we put out a whole bunch of different specimens of birds and they have to get them to order and family. So the idea is you basically have to memorize all the orders and families of birds of the world. And that's what the test is like. But she came to us with an idea of doing some Instagram posts as she was doing this. And we were like, yeah, okay.
I think it's great.
It sounds like we could actually have a few people click into it.
Yeah.
That's
You just never know, do you? That something happens at just the right time, and all of a sudden people are paying attention to something. I mean, if people are paying attention to longclaws and meadowlarks, the world is a much better place than I think it is.
I know, people are into it.
Yes.
I mean,
we gotta convert that to followers. We gotta. I wanted to make a point too to ask people, our listeners, everyone that's listening, to try to share and spread the word of us, because I feel like we don't do enough. When I listen to other podcasts, everyone's like telling their followers, like, all right, make sure to text one person right now and tell them if you're enjoying this. So maybe we should start doing that too.
Good idea. Yeah.
definitely.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm dressed in pink from head to toe because it's really hard to live here these days. And I don't know what your guys' favorite color is, but I need pink to do more things than be a color. And I've always felt that way about pink. Pink is like a mood and a feeling. It has special properties, healing properties, pink has. I know I'm not the only one, actually. There have been scientific studies to show that that is true of the color pink.
Oh, wow.
But, so what's your favorite color, RJ?
Oh, I think mine's probably blue, I'd say. Yeah, just because it's something I don't know. I like wearing blue. It's something you don't see very often in the wild, in the natural world. So yeah, I think the color blue. Yeah, what's yours,
Amanda, what
Amanda?
about you?
You know, I really like pink too. But I'd say my favorite color is probably green. Yeah, and I was gonna say.
What about
like
periwinkle, Amanda?
You're right, RJ. So like in flowers, I love like the color periwinkle. You see it sometimes like in hydrangea and then cornflower, like that kind of color. I love that color in the wild. You're right, RJ. When I see that, that's what I want. Yeah, that's a great color. Yeah. John, what about you?
Oh, I'm going to say green, like olive-sided flycatcher.
Gosh. You and I can't remember, what was his name? The poor guy who commented in support of your choice of lopsided flycatcher are the only two people in the entire
good
planet.
man. Yeah, good
I love
man.
that. Someone made a point to comment that they loved the lopsided flycatcher
funny.
episode. Yeah. That was awesome.
Good dude.
See, he's spiritually enlightened.
Yes.
Or
John, you're wearing
him.
olive today.
Yeah, right. It's like one of the museum volunteers.
Intern.
Oh my
Hey,
gosh.
Amanda, I want to show you something else. Do you know what this is?
Oh, is that your ember?
It is.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
You
so
need
Shannon,
to buy one.
I do. You're so right. Shannon, tell everybody how you came by that.
Well, I'm in love with tea. I'm obsessed with tea. In fact, if you came in my house, it's like a tea store. You could probably choose from 40 different kinds of tea. They're everywhere. Actually, there's some I found the other day that I put away somewhere, and then I found them. They've probably been there for 2 years or more. But anyways, I
Still
love
good.
tea. But the problem with hot tea is that it gets cold fast. And so I get annoyed. And I don't like putting things in the microwave, as John can attest, although that's his favorite and only necessary kitchen appliance. But and it always irritates me that tea gets so cold so fast because it's too hot to drink right away, and then I start working, I forget about it, and then I go back a half hour later and it's cooled already, and
Yes.
it annoys me. But this cup has a battery in it. And so it's on a coaster, and it keeps it you set the temperature, it connects to your phone, and it keeps it at the right temperature. And the battery in this cup lasts for, I don't know, 60 to 90 minutes or so. It'll keep it at that constant temperature. But then if you put it back on the coaster-like thing, which is the charger, then it'll keep it like that for the whole day if you want it to.
Amazing.
Till
That's
it all
awesome. I'm drinking-
evaporates.
So today it's cream of Earl Grey because the weather's
Oh.
changing, and I have to wear pink, not because it's hard to live here, but because I don't like winter. I cannot believe winter's going to come. You
It
guys
is,
who like
yeah.
cold need to re-examine your priorities.
Do you think we'll get snow this year? I feel
Be
like we
quiet.
haven't been.
You know, I actually was realizing that I don't know. I mean, bird-wise, there's been a lot of movement of things like blue jays and red-breasted nuthatches, and people are speculating that maybe we'll have a good winter finch year, for instance, and it's hard to know these days.
Mm.
I don't mind winter finches as they don't have to come in snow. Winter finches is great.
Yeah.
Well, should
Yeah.
we talk about the Downy and the Hairy? Those
Let's
are our
talk
birds
about
this
Downy
week?
and Hairy. Yeah,
So-
I just did a bird walk with both of them.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
exciting. It's fun. We were doing our research on them because, we can ID them, but don't know a ton about the two of them. And it's like the first thing that they said, and this is something that we can attest to, is like, with new birders, this is the first major challenge. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
being able to ID these two or tell
Yeah.
the difference between the two.
Certainly from the perspective of geographic range, those are birds that almost anywhere in continental North America you could run into them.
Well, their geographic variation also varies similarly amongst the two species, so it's super hard, and size is really difficult if you don't have them. If you have them side by side, you'll be able to tell which one's bigger than the other one. That's not a problem. But then the whole idea, like you're looking at the beak, well, is it the same length as the head or not the same length as the head? And then the bird's gone. And I do not, you get practice. Obviously, you get better at doing anything. You do it enough times. But last week we had a hairy woodpecker, no Downy woodpecker. The time I looked outside, there was a hairy woodpecker. And I looked at it, I'm like, am I confusing this or is this really bigger? Honestly, is it bigger? And it wasn't until it moved, I thought, okay, it really is a hairy woodpecker. So I had to use more clues than just my perception of size, because that is people's perceptions of size is not very reliable at times if you don't have a comparison thing there. I mean, if you had a creeper or something there, you could tell that it was a hairy woodpecker. But if you're just looking at it at a distance on a tree, it's easy to confuse yourself. And there is so much size geographic variation that you could go somewhere else and a smaller hairy woodpecker could approach the size of a bigger Downy woodpecker somewhere else in the distribution. But I don't know. But the whole head measurement thing, the books make it sound so easy. Oh, yeah. Just take a look.
Yeah.
If the beak is longer than it is from the base of the beak to the back of the head, it's a hairy woodpecker. Like, oh, okay, really? Honestly? Why don't you stay there, little bird, while I come with my tape measure and measure your freaking beak before you fly away?
It is true that a lot of times they'll call too, and the calls are really different. And maybe not really different, but they're different enough that after you've gotten used to hearing both of them, then it becomes really useful as a ID tool. but
Okay.
a lot of times a year they're not calling. So yeah, you look at them and you think, what is that?
They do fly differently too, so there are lots of ways you
Oh,
can get clues to what they might be, but uh,
I would have said that, except that I've had a couple of experiences lately where one's flown overhead. They have kind of broad wings when for a compared to a lot of other birds when they fly over, and that I just misidentified a hairy as a downy as a hairy when one was flying over, because and I was just, again, I didn't have any concept of size, and until the bird landed and I watched it for a little, I realized that I was wrong.
Yeah.
wait. So in what ways are their flights different then? Like, how would you tell them apart?
I mean, they're just. I think because it's a bigger bird, it probably does fly a little slower than downy does. But part of the problem is I don't think you see downies covering large uh, areas of space very often, going
maybe
from tree to
that's
tree.
true.
Mostly, they're just going short distances, and
Okay.
so I think there are just angles at which you can be deceived, and I'll often make the first assessment based on whatever information I have, and then immediately want to check a little more just to make sure.
You hope it makes sounds, and then you whip out Merlin, and you're like, "Okay, I am confirming that." I mean, that's one of the things that these apps are really good for. People say, "Well, it's just a crutch," but really it's a learning tool because you wanna learn them on your own, right? But you wanna know you have the right thing, or you wanna know close enough that you have the right thing so that you're learning the right thing, and then you don't go outside the next time and get it wrong repeatedly because you put these field marks in your own brain, and all of a sudden you realize they're the wrong field marks,
Mm.
and you've been making a mistake or potentially making a mistake, which I do all the time because I don't trust, especially sound identification. I do not trust myself with sound identification. I don't know why. I have such a good memory in so many ways that the fact that I'm not capable of remembering bird songs. I can't explain it, I don't understand it, and it is intensely frustrating. So I'm constantly checking with something like Merlin to make sure I haven't lost my mind, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, are you guys good with sounds with songs?
No, we
No.
rely on Merlin. I
Yeah.
mean, we're getting better, but I mean, it still is a challenge. But I mean, we're not embarrassed to use Merlin. We have it on the second we get out, we turn it on, and when we go for walks, we put it on. It was funny. We went for a bird walk. Was it just last month, Amanda, with one of our friends who's a lot more experienced than us? And Amanda and I, first thing we do is turn on Merlin, and we're walking around, and he's IDing everything by sound without using Merlin. And we were like, "Did you pick that up?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't have my phone turned on." And we were like,
Yes.
"Oh," we were a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
people who
not
can do
embarrassed.
that,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
yeah,
there are
I
people who
respect that.
can do that, just it's just in their brain in a way that they can have instant recall of what it is. Um,
It is fun. Like we definitely are getting better than we recognize that there's certain birds that we can hear now that we couldn't hear a year ago. And so it is fun.
Yeah.
Like I'll just like my, in the morning, walk to my car, which is in the parking lot, and see like how many birds I can hear an ID like on the way. And, it's just like a cardinal, robin, blue jay, mourning dove, things like that. But it's fun to be like, oh, there was 4 different things that I heard. And I feel like a year ago, I couldn't have done that. So I don't know. It's fun
Yeah.
See,
having a
and
little
that
bit of progress.
well,
Yeah.
and that's where progress becomes. You'll hear something and you go, wait, that's not one of those other birds that I know. What is
Right.
mhm.
that? And then you track it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Amanda, you did that
You know
last night. We were walking around our apartment complex because we heard, we couldn't figure it out if it was a bug or a bird or what.
Yeah.
And we
As I
pulled out
say,
Merlin, and Merlin didn't know, so we don't think it was a bird. But we've heard
it's
screech owl out in our parking lot before, and
nice.
there's definitely times where we'll just hear something and be like, "Oh, what was that?" And last
yeah.
night it turned out to be nothing.
Yeah. It was
But
just
yeah,
a bug.
but to
Yeah.
your point, John, that's like when you start to recognize something different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
You
feel
know,
like
RJ oops, sorry, Amanda.
Oh, no, go ahead, Shannon.
When I go into schools to talk to kids about birds, what you just did is exactly what I tell them to do.
Oh, cool.
I tell them that they'll get 5 species of birds, not too difficultly between their house and when they walk to school. If they walk for more than a few blocks or a block or two, they'll do that. And most kids will say, "No, there aren't." I'm like, "Oh, yes, there actually are." And if I can, I'll open the windows in the school, in the classroom, and say, "Listen to what you hear right now." And there's always house sparrows at schools anyway, but you can usually hear several species just from a classroom window, because you want people to go outside of their house and look at the world differently and realize that, even an urban neighborhood has wildlife in it.
Has
Um,
birds, yeah.
and Chicago has a lot of wildlife in it because it has so many forest preserves and parks. So, and the lake. Um, there's lots of things you can do, and those sightings matter. So if things are
Mhm.
going declining in numbers, the number of house sparrows you see on your way to and from school could be an indicator of declining populations. I mean, house sparrows are declining, so are starlings in their native range. Maybe not here,
Mhm.
but they are elsewhere. So, yeah.
For Downies and Harrys, when they're pecking, can you tell the difference between like I was no, it sounds the same.
So,
Okay.
so my guess is it doesn't sound the same necessarily. So the general dogma, it's particularly in the spring, you can often hear these really fast taps in across eastern North America, and I tend to think those are downies. The problem is you start realizing that, let's say a downy finds a hollow branch, it can
Mhm.
sound like it's it's like a much
Oh,
bigger bird just by
Oh,
virtue
yeah.
of the sound the branch makes when it hits it. And so
Yeah.
I've always felt like you've got probably a 60 to 70% chance of being right if you're guessing based on that. But
okay.
again, you track it down and you think it's going to be a hairy because it sounds like it's a bigger bird that's making more noise, and you get there and there's this little downy just on a dead branch with perfect resonance that it's found, and it's like,
So, how do you feel about the white outer parts of the tail feathers and how much black there is as a distinguishing identifier of the two?
I mean, it's definitely distinguishing. There are a lot of times when you don't get a good enough look to see that.
And I think the idea that you would see apparently the hairy woodpecker, the red stripe on its nape. So that's how you tell
Mhm.
males from females, right? The red stripe or no red stripe. But that red stripe on the nape can be divided sometimes in hairy woodpeckers, and apparently it's never divided in downy woodpeckers. But I'm not sure I would ever be able to. I would don't. I could, yeah, obviously on a specimen you could do that, but I'm not
Mhm.
sure I could do that reliably at all in a wild bird.
Again, some of it depends on how close you are. Did you guys see any woodpeckers out in Arizona when you were on your trip?
Yeah, we saw
The a Gila.
Gila
Gila
woodpecker.
Gila
woodpecker.
woodpecker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
That
then
was
did we
really
see a
cool.
ladderback too, Amanda?
I
I
think
think
we did, and I know we
yeah.
saw a ladderback in March as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were both new for
Those were
us.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, in keeping with the weird size things, the books say that hairy um, doesn't scoot itself around on small branches, only
Uh-huh.
bigger ones. But that's
Okay.
again a size thing, right?
Yeah.
At the ends of the distribution, okay, well, this is tiny and this is big. Okay, but then in the middle, what is big and what is not big? I don't know.
I think that one's pretty good, because sometimes you'll be out in areas and you'll see a woodpecker just sort of out in a on the bigger stems of annuals out in fields like goldenrod and stuff, and those are going to be downies, I think, almost all the time.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think
So
And
our
then so
Harrys
are
are
they
mostly gonna be trees, you're saying?
I think that's a pretty good thing. I mean, Shannon's right. I think
Okay.
you could have them do odd things once in a while.
And then so I saw that even though they look so similar, are they not closely related?
Well, they're not super distantly related, but they are not each other's closest relatives, which
so
Okay.
they'd
when I
always
found that out
Crazy.
blew my mind.
they'd
That
always
blows
been
my
put in the
mind.
same genus, which means
Okay.
that people thought they were pretty closely related, and it turns out they're in different parts of the woodpecker tree. With
Well,
Wow.
not
birds,
that different.
well, birds from other continents actually are closer to uh, one group than the other.
But that looks like it's
Wow.
true across the woodpecker tree of life from the phylogenetics stuff that I looked at, is that old world, new world kind of distribution is found in all of the clades, well, except for, yeah, so it's found across the tree of life, that there's been repeated instances of going back and forth between the major geographic regions in the world, although the phylogeny suggests that they are old world in origin, not new world in origin. And you can tell that when you look at a tree by looking at their statistics you can use, but you look at the branches at the bottom of the tree and see where they're distributed. And if you have a whole bunch of things that are distributed, so you have a whole bunch of things that are distributed in North America, and then you find all of a sudden you get branches that are in South America or in the Caribbean or somewhere else, you're likely to conclude that they came from North America, because the earliest branches, many of the earliest branches, are in that part of the in that part of the world. So, anyways, then there are fancy statistics you can use to look at that, but
That's a
why are you look bemused at me, John? What am I saying?
no. I was
You're
just
the
going to
one
say
who's
no.
teaching
I was just
biogeography. You tell me.
another tidbit about the family Pisidae that are the woodpeckers is they're not in Australia, and so biogeographically, I think that is an interesting observation that also supports the possibility that they arose in Asia and Europe and spread to the New World.
Okay.
But
There
there
are
are
some super weird.
there's some neat convergences in them where you get old world things that look like New World things, and
then you talked a little bit about the like mimicry between the two. So what are some of the ideas there? So is one of the woodpeckers mimicking the other or in appearance, or
I mean, it's certainly been proposed and could, seems to be because they both occur so broadly overlapping. People have suggested that Downy is mimicking Hairy as a way to potentially maybe um, keep other species from attacking it, for instance. So it could be a
Is if
a
they
dominance
think
thing.
it's bigger, they'll leave it alone.
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's-
So I, I I think it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting across. Well, I find this across life in general, life on Earth, and I don't mean human life. Um, like what constrains certain groups of organisms to vary the way they do? So why are woodpeckers varying in um, blacks and whites and stripes and streaking and spots? And why is red the most, the really common color and not some other colors? I don't know. I don't know why, but there have been papers published. Jerry Jackson published something in 1998 describing the adaptive significance of some of the plumage characteristics in them. I don't know about this, but the black and white is supposed to be a camouflage thing for dappling light that comes through trees.
Oh,
Do I
cool.
believe that? I don't know. Um, the black eye stripe thing is supposed to be something to reduce glare, the way football players put the eye black on. Baseball
Oh,
players
very
do it
cool.
too. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of that's storytelling. Although one of our
Yeah.
graduate students, Jacob Cooper, did a neat study looking across the geographic ranges of Downy and Hairy, but also some woodpeckers in South America, and found where there was the same kind of size dimorphism in overlapping species, and found that the interesting thing about Downy Hairy, Shannon was mentioning size variation, is that one prediction of that would be if they're truly mimicking that, as say Hairy got smaller, maybe Downy would get smaller too, and that doesn't seem to happen. So the areas
Are you
where,
sure that doesn't
yeah,
happen?
it absolutely does.
Uh,
Yep. So
hmm.
it's, yeah. So it's. I mean, it's indirect. A lot of times with mimicry, the idea is that the bird, the model. So there's the mimic and the model, and the idea is that the model is somehow providing advantages that the mimic wants to gain. And it's a little hard to understand what downy woodpeckers would gain from looking like hairy woodpeckers
Okay.
in a way that you could actually demonstrably show it.
There are
With
advantages to being black, though, if you're a woodpecker, because the melanin in your feathers makes them tougher. So if you're going to spend a lot of time going up around branches the way they do, uh, it's advantageous to have these stiffened tail feathers. And if you look at woodpeckers' tail feathers, the rachis, the central part, is very thick and stiff. And that provides a brace so that the bird doesn't fall off when it's hitching itself up and down branches. But black provides resistance to wear better than other colors do. So melanin strengthens the feathers. So I guess that makes sense for why woodpeckers who spend a lot of time in trees would have a preponderance of black plumage, because you get more vulnerable, right? If your feathers are wearing, your foraging efficiency is going to go down. Um,
Oh,
so
cool.
the black part makes sense to me. Some of the rest are interesting, fun stories. I mean, what would we have to do to go tell that? You'd have to um, capture woodpeckers and then either paint some of the black parts white or some of the white parts black to see whether behaviorally it made a difference, right? So I don't, even though we know a lot about downy woodpeckers in particular, we didn't, that, we don't know that. Nobody's done that kind of stuff. And apparently they're small enough that even putting trackers on them can be problematic at times.
I think some of that's the way they move too. But I think the idea of the abrasion thing is an interesting one, because again, they're nesting and roosting in holes in trees, and so maybe they're a lot harder on their feathers going in and out like that than other birds are, and that's a fact.
Does that go for all black feathers, like in a
Yeah.
crow or a raven? Those are just better feathers?
Yep. Yeah, they're stronger.
Interesting.
But then if you're a woodpecker, you have to take it to a new level, because you are spending so much time in trees. I mean, who knows why some other things are black? There doesn't have to be an adaptive reason for it. And adaptation has to be demonstrated, not assumed. A lot of people assume adaptation. I'm not like that, and so I am at odds with people pretty frequently when it comes to adaptationist theories of the world. I think there's just a lot of chance things that happen. That doesn't mean they're adaptive.
But I'll throw out my weird adaptationalist view of these guys, which is that when you take pictures of them and they're flat up against the tree and you're straight behind them, the striping on the head and the white on the sides shows up in a way that makes me think that one of the things they could have is the suggestion to predators that they're actually being looked at by the bird, even though it's looking the other direction.
Like eyes in the back of your head.
Yep, and I really wonder if that's a possibility in some of this, because if you're doing what they're doing, which is spending all this time on this trunk substrate looking for things, you're very close and you're not necessarily watching for predators, and so it seems to me like that could be a reasonable way evolution worked with respect to some
Now
of
that's
that.
something you could test. Because if they were, say you could, they'd still be downy woodpeckers. If you could change the streaks, and And you could see whether there was more predation, whether they got eaten more frequently by the things that prey on them, hawks, owls,
It's just hard with these
things
because
like
let's
that.
say you did paint them black, right? Now you've got to wonder whether that suddenly makes them more noticeable for some reason. Coming back to the dappled light thing that you talked about earlier, I don't. It
Well, if
just
the only thing you changed is that, then that's a
I don't.
fairly controlled
I'm
experiment.
not sure I'd be very happy with a graduate student that wanted to do that.
I didn't say we were going to do it. I wouldn't tell someone to do my dissertation right now. So ever, let alone something that's hard like that.
Is it just the downy that potentially looks like it has a eye in the back of the head, or is it the downy and hairy?
So good question, because I don't think I have I noticed it when I was just going through pictures I was taking, and I take for what, because I think you get closer to them and you get more pictures of downy than you do hairy.
Okay.
But I could imagine hairy has it. And then, I mean, there are a lot of woodpeckers out there, and it would be an interesting thing to survey woodpeckers in general and ask that question as to whether or not you see some things like that from behind.
So, John, something I read talked about males and females separating how they forage and on what substrates they forage, that females are foraging on larger branches
Yeah, and
than
downy, right?
males are. Yeah, in downy. Is that?
Yeah.
I,
I mean, I don't think of there being a lot of size dimorphism, but I've certainly, and I've never kept track of when I see them out in fields, like I said, where you sometimes, but it's amazing how many I know I've seen a bunch of males in those situations. It's, you get up in Wisconsin in the winter on a Christmas count and you're struggling to find any birds because it's close to 0 degrees and stuff, and suddenly you hear something and there's this little downy woodpecker out in a field. It could be on a corn stalk, like going for something. And yeah, so maybe, I don't know, it'd be a fun thing to. I was interested in the fact that the species accounts imply that we know a lot about them, and I'd say we don't actually in some ways, because it's hard to watch nests, and so they're going in and laying eggs in holes in trees that where they've constructed, and you don't necessarily know much about how the people have done creative things like put glass on the back and been able to film what's going on. But so there's definitely ways it's been worked on, but I feel like we don't know a lot about the breeding biology of those birds in a lot of ways.
I feel like the one thing we don't know very much about is, I mean, they don't migrate, so they're resident birds, but how much, what happens after breeding? How far do individuals go? What kind of post-breeding movement is there? How far do young birds go from where they're born to where they breed? And what's the distribution of males and females in that? Who moves more? Why? How? Um, they clearly flock up a bit sometimes. Who's in those?
You mean in
Who's
mixed species
around?
flocks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the hairy woodpecker we had on this walk I was doing today along the Chicago River was up in the underside of a cottonwood, where there was an area that had broken off, and it was clearly excavating for that. And I think what it probably was it was looking for a place to roost during the winter. It was constructing a roost site, and I tend to forget that they've not only building nest sites, but they also probably want to have a few roost sites around on their territories too.
So, John, if you had to guess how many we have in our collections of Harrys and Downies, what would you guess?
Oh, I'd probably say 350 Downies and 400 Harrys.
You are way off, dude. We have 800. We have over 811 because they're not all cataloged. So we have cataloged 811 Downies and 712 Harrys. The Downy didn't surprise me so much, but that many Hairy Woodpeckers actually did. So that's a lot. So there's a good sample for people who want to do some studies of specimens.
So again, it comes back to people have long been interested in geographic variation in hairy woodpecker, and they have this distribution that includes not only the United States and Canada, but goes all the way down into Central America. And so I think that people have collected them a lot because they were interested in the geographic variation. So I'll bet the hairy woodpeckers in the collection tend to be on the old side, just because, like you said, they're not. We don't get that many in from salvage for hairy woodpeckers because they're not moving around in the same way.
There's like a gazillion, and I mean that for real, subspecies described from these things with I don't know. I think it's just arbitrary breaks of Klein's and other things like that. I don't know that they're real per se, but, that section of Birds of the World is always going to have, this is a work in progress associated with the taxonomic sections having to do with subspecies, because good luck with that.
Are there
crazy?
any
And I
areas
love
where you
the
would-
names. The names fascinate me too. And the fact that Downy woodpeckers are not in picoides anymore, which they have been for a really long time. And so these trees of life, again, kind of muss up the taxonomy compared to what people might have known. But the fact that it's called Downy woodpecker is not because it's small, and its species name is pubescens, not because it's small, but because of pubescent can mean immature, juvenile, but it can also mean covered in fine hairs. And so that's where the hairy comes from, on the back, the white feathers on the back towards the tail being more like hairs, and the ones on the downy woodpecker being more like little thin wisps of downy feathers. So that's where they're
not
that's
something
where
you
their
would
name
see
comes
with your
from.
binoculars.
No, but you can see
right.
it if you look at the specimens. You can definitely see it. Next time you come in, we'll show you the back of a downy woodpecker. I didn't think about doing that, and that's not something I think about doing when we have people at the at that case. And I think it's something we should tell people about, because it's cool when you look at it. It's cool.
We could do it on our next field trip now that those are going viral.
There we go.
That might be a one-off. Sorry, John. No offense. You are interesting and super nice, but are you viral?
I'm viewing as
Maybe.
as a challenge.
Yeah.
There we
good
go.
Lord.
How do we top that?
There will be no naked people at the bird cages.
I wasn't going that direction.
That's how you go viral.
I was going to ask, are there any areas where you're, let's say the lower 48 in the U.S., where you would only see one or the other? Or is it most areas people are going to have to battle to determine which one it is?
I am so glad you asked that question, because growing up in Tucson, Arizona, Downy woodpecker is a rare bird in the winter in the southern part of Arizona, and hairy woodpecker is up in the mountains. And so I remember as a kid constantly wondering, am I overlooking Downy woodpecker? And we might have had one or two in the entire time I was growing up. So here was this bird that, like, when I finally got east, it was suddenly like it's everywhere. And no, so there are a few places, and there again, part of me wonders, it's like, why would a downy woodpecker come down to southeastern Arizona just for a little while? And I don't know. They breed up in the White Mountains, which are sort of where you guys were in Prescott, straight to the eastern side of the state.
Cool.
But I don't think they're, again, I think they're much rarer than hairy in those areas.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, that would make it
Woodpeckers
way
also have
easier.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to get off that easy, RJ. You're gonna have to actually remember how to tell them apart.
Yeah, come on.
We're just moving to Arizona now.
Sorry. Or you move to one spot in Arizona where you
Just
only
so we
have
can tell the
one.
difference. Yeah, just so we can be
Yeah.
confident in our.
And then if you find the other one, you'll be a hero. All the
Yeah.
bird watchers will love
You
you.
have to tell your parents they need to buy someplace in southern Arizona.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, wait till I sell them on that. You know how you're always struggling to tell the difference between hairy and downy woodpeckers? Well, let me tell you.
I'm sure that's a major part of their life. That
Yeah.
that
It will be.
dilemma
It will
is an
be.
all-encompassing thing.
Yeah.
So woodpeckers
Oh.
have other cool things. They have zygodactylous feet, which means two toes point forward and 2 point backward. And
Okay.
there's not that many birds that actually have feet like that, but it's an adaptation for climbing, right? Again, just like the stiffened tail, the bracing effects of having 2 toes forward and 2 toes back is really important if you're going to hitch your way around branches. Um, so they have that, and that's a really weird word. I remember having to look that up in graduate school. People were talking about woodpeckers. What the heck is that word? Where's my dictionary? Which I used to do a lot when I first went to graduate school. I had to look up basically everything anybody said all the time because I'd never heard these words ever before. I had no clue what some of them meant, and zygodactyly is one of them. So some parrots have that too for obvious reasons. You can see that parrots hitching have those. I think some owls have them. I don't think
Cuckoos?
all owls do that, right?
I don't think owls. No, I don't think. Well, owls may have one of those other words where they can move it around a little bit.
You can
You think
osprey do
cuckoos
that
have two
too?
in the front?
Os-
Have a
no,
rotating.
Don't they have
ospreys.
the one where they can move it around?
They probably
Or maybe
can.
not.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Okay.
surprise me. Yeah.
Okay.
Do like nuthatches or creepers have that kind of toe or no?
No,
No,
and
interesting.
and so they're it is really interesting, and that may be like
Creepers
I don't know,
have
the
the
mech-
stiffened tails, though. So if you look at a creeper's tail, it is stiffened,
Okay.
but not a nuthatch.
and they're feeding on trees like that where you're going up and down. It's funny, we don't say it woodpecker like we say like a nuthatch usually, but like I just had I had a black and white warbler out at Memorial Park Cemetery, which is getting late in the fall, and I had to write details on it. But that's a bird that essentially forages like a nuthatch along the trees.
Okay.
But there's some different mechanics there, and their feet are like regular perching birds with the 3 toes forward and the 1 back.
Okay.
But
Those I love.
that may
So-
constrain how big they can get and still do it.
Interesting.
Well, I think we're
Poor
getting close
downy
on.
woodpeckers were considered to be bad for trees. They thought they were destroying trees because of their drilling, but it turns out that they don't do that. The sapsuckers are the ones that are doing that. And they go in there every once in a while and get sap out of the holes, but they're not the ones doing them. So people can take that label off of, tree destroyer off of these little tiny birds. And drumming is really cool because I don't know until I started looking at them closely for this episode. I never really thought about what they're doing when they're drumming, not just making people annoyed, which it clearly can. If these woodpeckers are drumming on your metal stovepipe, they're going to make you lose your mind, and you're going to be calling animal control to get them the heck away from your house. But and they can drill for social connections, not just to feed, but they can, by drilling, they can tell if there are grubs underneath. They can tell if it's a hollow sound in there that might indicate a tunnel that they should excavate further, which is so amazingly
That is
cool. And
amazing.
apparently they follow around pileated woodpecker, for example, which do make a god-awful mess when they're pecking. And I guess they're not very discriminant sometimes. And so the downy woodpeckers will follow around the pileated woodpeckers and pick up the smaller things, I guess, that the pileateds think aren't really worth putting too much energy into. So I thought that was funny too, the idea
That's
that,
smart.
You have little Downy following Woody Woodpecker around the forest. The fun things you learn when you start doing these episodes.
Was there anything else on Harry and Downy we want to talk about, or we have a mailbag question this week we can get into?
Check out the mailbag.
Okay. This mailbag question made me laugh. So this is from Ariana from Logan Square, and Ariana's written to us before. She says, "It's been a while since I've sent in a mailbag question. I apologize in advance for the lengthiness of this email, LOL. Before I share my question, here's a random, silly, dumb tidbit relating to one of the episodes where you all were covering the feather thief. I honestly can't remember the context of it, but Shannon was talking about some field work she had done and made the statement, 'I was preparing a jay.' For whatever reason, my brain did not picture Shannon tending to a bird, but instead rolling a joint. And then it registered that she meant bird, not marijuana. I don't know why the mental image of Shannon rolling a blunt is so amusing to me, but it just is."
Well, because it's never happened before. And
so amusing to me, too.
I am probably the straightest person. Anybody in this entire world, in the history of the world, I might be the straightest person anybody has ever met. I have never done a drug
I'm just thinking,
ever. I wouldn't even know how.
There's probably not many people that have paired a jay as in a scientific specimen and not rolled a jay.
Besides Shannon.
I have this. I'm very, very, very conservative when it comes to drugs. Yeah, so that made me laugh like hilariously because I am just notoriously the designated driver. I've been that my whole life.
But wait a minute.
I don't drink.
She had
only
a
require
question.
one kind of jay.
Didn't Anna have a question?
Yeah. So then she says, okay, anyway, my question is this. How do birders keep in touch about unique sightings of birds that are not typical in an area? I heard via Facebook groups that there was a phalarope at Montrose Harbor, but it was several hours after the fact, and I didn't feel like it would be there by the time I had a chance to go look. I know some birders go on wild goose chases, LOL, bird pun, to try and see unique visitors, but how do they get info so quickly? Is it just a matter of being social, yikes, with other birders and getting people's phone numbers? Okay, last comment request. I was curious if you guys might do an episode or series of episodes about seabirds. Something like albatross, eaters, I'm going to mess these up. Is it kittiwakes?
Eiders or kittiwakes?
Eiders, yeah, eiders and kittiwakes.
Kittiwakes, and the marbled murrelet. Did I get that right? Murrelet?
Marbled murrelets that's another one of my favorite birds.
Oh, she says that's her
favorite. They go up there with puffins.
Oh, it's crazy.
The tufted puffins.
Oh,
not the other puffins, John.
Not the...
John.
I feel like Ariana wrote to us puffing.
Not puffing either.
Puffin.
Oh,
Puffin
Shannon's
jays.
obsessed
Yeah.
with rolling jays and puffing.
You've gone too far.
All of on her mind all the time.
Or
and
never.
She says, or never. She says, as always, thank you for the work you all do on the podcast and sharing your joy for birds. I'm so grateful to be able to learn more from you and feel inspired by you all every week. From Ariana from Logan Square.
Oh, awesome.
So that was
Oh,
awesome.
that's very sweet.
Thank you. Great
But
story.
we should do this before Jacob moves to, I guess he could do something like this when he moves to Europe too. But yeah, Jacob and Marky would be great people to have come on to talk about those things. So they both went on a cruise in, is it this year or the end of last year? I can't remember. They both went on a cruise recently, a big bird watching kind of
They
cruise
basically
out of South Africa.
The South African
Cool.
bird conservation organization rented this boat and for birders, and they went and sailed around one of the islands. I can't remember which one, down in the South Atlantic, just looking at seabirds the whole time. Which are talk about Downy and Hairy issues. Their seabirds are full of ID the problems. Now, the question about how people hear about things we could also do multiple episodes with lots of people on them because
Oh.
it is very social. It can be a very touchy thing because sometimes some people hear about things and some people don't, and they get very upset about it. It's evolved a lot over time. When I was growing up, we literally had a phone tree in southern Arizona where my dad would hear from somebody about a bird, and he would be supposed to call two other people to let them know. And back then there were barely answering machines, and so sometimes you couldn't get the people, and you had to like, do we continue to try to call them or do we go look for it? And we would go look for it.
That's
cool.
so cool.
But
yeah,
so
Facebook is a good way though, because Facebook is really good for that kind of thing for bird people.
Well, I was going to.
John gets a million texts sometimes. That's how we know that someone's found something good, because his phone is like vibrating every 2 seconds for quite a while, because he's on these text lists. So yeah, get your name on a text list. And you'll find out. But you can still go afterward. Most birds don't come and go
There's
that fast.
but the other thing you can do now too is you can sign up for alerts in eBird. So you could sign up for anytime a particular bird is like birds you haven't seen in Cook County, for instance. You can ask for alerts for that. Or you can
very cool.
Yeah, if you've got a patch that you go to all the time, and somebody sees something, then you'll get an alert when somebody puts that information in. And the only problem there is if they don't put the information in right away, you'll hear about it later than you might like, and the bird might not be there. But there's definitely in the birding community, there is a major challenge with that kind of connectedness, because sometimes, for instance, it's a bird that people are worried about bothering. It's an owl, for instance. And there can be very hard feelings if certain people get to go see that owl and other people don't, because they're trying to not have too many people go see it. How do you make decisions like that?
Oh yeah.
Totally.
And my feeling is, if you don't see it, you don't see it.
Yeah.
So the fact that we had that saw-whet owl and the Harris's sparrow in our yard, did that come from you? Because that was in COVID, and it was our social life for the period of time those birds were in our yard. Everybody was coming over. I can't even imagine what the neighbors must have thought about cars of people with binoculars traipsing into the parking and then coming into our backyard. But that was from you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I put that out on the North Shore Bird Chat, and a bunch of people needed it for their yard lists in Cook County.
Oh, cool.
And so people came by.
That's
and they
awesome.
they would text us and say, would it be okay to come by? And it's sure. We're sitting here not doing anything else.
We haven't seen a person in like 2 weeks other than ourselves in 3 dimensions at least. See hundreds of people in little squares and rectangles.
I wanted to say to Ariana, like, I feel like she was one of the first people that wrote into us, like, when we first got started, and she was like kind of unsure and just kind of getting, into birding, and she's writing about things that I can't even pronounce. So good job, Ariana. You've passed Amanda and I. Yeah.
For sure.
It's fun to see like progress of people, and so thanks for writing in.
It's awesome.
But she's right that we haven't done any seabird episodes at all, probably because their ideas they're so
terrifying.
Hard. So we can just talk about how hard they are to identify.
All right. And then before we wrap it up, I just wanted to, for everybody listening, please spread the word about us as well. We appreciate everybody that's writing in, everybody that continues to listen. It's been fun seeing all the people watching the TikTok and Instagram video of John as well. So we just want to ask people to tell somebody about us. If you're enjoying listening to us, tell somebody else that you think would enjoy and follow along. That goes a long way for us. So we just want to thank you and see if you can help us spread the word.
And And don't hesitate to ask us questions too, because we love getting mail from people. Times are dismal, and the mail is universally positive that's come to us. And so it makes me laugh, and it makes me feel hopeful for the world. So the people who listen to this can be super nice and super sweet. So
we like talking about puffin and jays.
right. On that note, that was hilarious. All right. I'm going to stop.